Hey everyone. Today we're going to talk about an event in Irish history that you might not know about. A great famine, but not the potato famine of the 19th century. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Virtual History 360. I'm Mr. Wade and I love history, and I bet you do too. That's why you're watching this video. So remember to click the subscribe button and turn on the bell to receive notifications about future videos that you're probably going to like too. Let me say we get started. Today our subject is a part of world history. Believe it or not, I have a personal connection to this story that I will talk about at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned. Now, as I said in the introduction, we are going to talk about a famine that struck Ireland, but not the Great Potato Famine of the 1840s. That one was caused by disease. This famine, on the other hand, was completely different. It was caused by the weather. Now, meteorology was not as exact back then as it is today, but the best guess for the sudden change in weather was a volcanic eruption on the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. I'm going to throw a tag to a National Geographic 360 video up in the corner here that shows an eruption on the Kamchatka Peninsula. And now, don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you go check it out, but just remember to come back, okay? Alright, where was I? With this volcano pumping thousands of tons of ash and dust into the atmosphere, it could very well be the cause of this shift in weather. If you look at other European countries at the same time, their weather was messed up too, so it's believable. It got so cold in Ireland that rivers and lakes froze solid. There are even stories of carnivals being held on the frozen water. Now, that's pretty common in other parts of the world, but it was a new experience to Ireland at the time. But I'm not really going to focus on the frolicking at the beginning of the weather shift. I want to talk about the severity of the events that followed. What do you say we hop in a jet and head to Ireland? Here we are in the Irish countryside. Beautiful, isn't it? But if you were here in 1740, you wouldn't be worrying about the scenery. You'd be concerned about where your next meal would be coming from. Because here's the thing. For the previous 30-odd years before this, Ireland only knew mild winters. This changed when the Great Frost struck in 1739. Once the novelty of the frozen lands wore away, people were left with the reality that their food stores were being ruined. Potatoes that were not stored properly froze and then turned into an inedible mush. But at this point, it was the temperature more than the food that was the true hardship. People living in the country probably fared a little better because they were most likely in shelters that were built into the ground and therefore more insulated. On the other end of the spectrum were the poor people who lived in the cities. These are the people that lived in drafty basements and attics, and those places provided very little protection from the cold, which hovered right around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Oy. The struggle was to avoid hypothermia without using all of your fuel supplies. Now, eventually the cold did subside, but much later than usual. This meant that crops did not get planted early enough. Couple that with the lack of rain, and the problem snowballed from there. No pun intended. The next winter struck earlier than usual. Crops were small and livestock were weak. The government tried to keep prices for food from getting out of control and to keep the people from rioting, but no measure fixed the problem. Prices for potatoes, wheat, oats, butter, and meat reached all-time highs. To make matters worse, a blizzard struck in October. Then, in November, there were torrential rains that caused major flooding. These rains broke up the ice in the rivers and caused the chunks to flow through the cities, damaging boats and other property. By the winter of 1741, the worst was over. The harvest that year was small, but with a return to semi-normal temperatures and a distribution of wheat that had been imported from places like the Americas, people were eating again. But now for the toll it took on Ireland. It is estimated that the mortality rate between 1740 and 1741 was somewhere between 13 and 20%, which means that total deaths from this famine could range between 300 and 480,000 people. Proportionally speaking, this famine was deadlier than the potato famine of the 1840s, and yet it is largely forgotten about and overshadowed. However, the citizens of Ireland who lived through it passed along the memory. The year 1741 is known as Bliain or the year of the slaughter. I think it is important that we remember as well. As for my story, I did some genealogical research and traced my father's line back to John Wade, not Wayne, Wade, who was a Protestant doctor living in Dublin at the time. He lived with his wife and 2 teenage sons. And unfortunately, his wife Jane passed away in 1744. If that date is accurate, it is most likely not famine related, but records can be ambiguous. And I believe it's safe to assume that she was susceptible to the food shortages, which probably affected her body negatively. And when she ultimately died, John and his 2 sons, Francis and Thomas, emigrated to the American colonies. There they became successful merchants in Philadelphia. Francis even served as a colonel during the Revolution. Now, I could keep going, but let's remember why we're here today. The unbelievable weather patterns of 1739 to 1741 that caused the horrific food shortages, which led to one of the deadliest famines in Irish history. Now, I think that about covers the Forgotten Irish Famine of the 1740s. What do you think? Leave a comment below if you have any questions I can help you with. While you're there, go ahead and hit that like button for me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the alerts so you can keep up with these new history videos. Between your teachers and these videos, I know you're going to rock your history class. And if you want to find out more, check out some of our other videos by clicking on the side over here. We have other world history videos as well as U.S. history and 360s. You'll love them, so check them out. For Virtual History 360, I'm Mr. Wade. Thank you.